right, Awesemo, here we go. It's your old pal Emac coming to you on Halloween. We have a little fun going on with the old NBA slate. We've got some late night Lakers shenanigans just on tap. We've got Dak Prescott off for 2 weeks, comes back, is not going to play. Keeping up with the crummy island game primetime games. At least we don't have to worry about weather. Instead, we get to worry about an undrafted quarterback who has been with the Dallas Cowboys since 2017, has appeared in 6 games, 3 pass attempts. Those 3 pass attempts happened in his rookie year in mop-up duty. 1 game, they were ahead. 1 game, they were getting their ass kicked. He couldn't even crack the field when it was Ben DiNucci and Gail Gilbert's kid. What a mess here. What a mess. Terry, how's your day going? You got a New York hat on. What are we looking at for the shirt there?
Cuban national baseball team. Yeah.
There we go.
Back in the WBC, the World Baseball Classic. And I tell you what, I'd be happy on behalf of the Giants to send Jason Garrett back to the Cowboys if they're looking for a quarterback. It might be a better situation.
Who dis? New phone. I don't think they're picking up. Nick, how about you? You got a little trick or treat, little dressing up the other day? Any other fun? You did the pumpkin patch before that. You're just the Renaissance man. I never leave the house.
I know, I'm such a fall guy. I just love the fall, love the nice leaves outside, love everything about it. Love Halloween. Hopefully everyone's having a great Halloween. I didn't see very many trick-or-treaters out today until like 4 o'clock. Then everyone and their kids, everyone was out, and then it stopped because it started raining. So I hope everyone's having a great Halloween, even though we are all too old to be trick-or-treating at this point.
Yeah, I did tuck a few of the candy. I bought the kind of candy I liked and then realized if I'm just setting the bowl out front, there's not going to be any left for me at the end of the night. So I tucked a few away that my wife doesn't need to know about. I've got those hidden up here in my office. So I will be enjoying that at some point for sure. But in the meantime, we are going to get on in. We're going to just wait another moment or two here for social media to catch up. We're going to let everybody collect here. We are continuing with our current format for this show. We will be focusing on building some lineups here and demonstrating across FanDuel, Yahoo, and DraftKings. We, of course, will talk a little Oddsshopper because they have some things that will tie in nicely with what we're doing with Prize Picks. And then on the in-between, we'll be giving our analysis as we make our picks. If anything we don't hit on throughout that, we'll cover that at the end. But generally, the way we've done this, we usually kind of break down everything in a non-traditional format. It's been a lot of fun. We've gotten some good feedback on it. And then we'll hit some prize picks and then questions at the end. Again, the game starts at 8:20 tonight, but we want to make sure we go early. We're giving you guys an hour and 5 minutes, and I have a new ring light. So if producer Chris is watching, hey, I don't look like I'm sitting in the shadows totally. Now I've got the different, we'll work on that. But in any event, let's get on over here. The first site we're starting off with to do our build is going to be the FanDuel site. We do know that, of course, Dak Prescott is out. We weren't really expecting him to play. It was he was on the wrong side of questionable. He's dealing with the calf issue. However, him being in wasn't going to be the salvation for everything. It was just going to give the other offensive players an uptick. Now, I'm not entirely sure what to expect, but anything we do is going to feel a little chalky if it's 4-1, 5-1, 4-2 when we're going Minnesota to Dallas against Dallas. But we know that's not always the case of how things happen. So, Terry, let's walk on over there to the blue site, the FanDuel site. Let's see. I'll call it up. Producer Jordan's got it on the screen. He's utilizing the Awesemo lineup builder. That's something that you can access if you have the weekly express package. That's just $4.95 for NFL. That includes all showdown content for Monday, Thursday, and Sunday. That's player projections. That's popularity, the ownership projections. And then it also includes DK tiers. For this time, something we've added, and it includes the lineup builder. Lineup builder is very nice. It'll grade you out, tell you if you're building a chalky lineup, more of a tournament lineup, etc. So very helpful there. And that does also give you access to the Awesemo premium Discord, which at that point, we can help explain any of these tools to you firsthand. Terry, the blue site, what do we got here? The world is your oyster.
So, just taking a look at the board here, I just pulled up our top showdown plays tool, which works a lot like the boom bust tool, if people are familiar with that on the site. So what I'm basically doing is putting the update in. I haven't looked at this since a little bit earlier when we weren't totally sure about Dak. We were still projecting Dak as if he was in, because that just kind of makes the most sense when we were in the middle of the afternoon and didn't know on the board here. So things have changed. So what I like to do is just sort it by the optimal lineup rate for the captain play and kind of make my decision there by looking at the frequency with which these guys are coming up optimal and then the amount that the field is going to own them. And that's kind of how we get to our leverage scores. The first one that I notice, and it kind of jibes with what I was looking at in the theme of DK historical results, in that a game with this kind of a point total, this kind of a point spread tends to get toward a passing oriented attack and tends to yield good results when you have wide receivers in these multiplier spots. So I'm looking at Justin Jefferson. He's coming up on the FanDuel board, 18.1% optimal in the captain spot, only getting 12% ownership in the captain spot. So that's giving him a nice little leverage boost there. I like that a lot. So I'm considering him there. The other guy that kind of is interesting there, as flawed a play as it might be, because we have no idea what to expect from the dude, is Cooper Rush, because he's essentially doubling up his captain ownership with his optimal lineup rate. Now, it's a tough ask for him to put up a really high score in this spot, and we don't gain anything on FanDuel from the salary discount in terms of the multiplier or anything. So I don't love it. So I'm going to go with Justin Jefferson, but I did want to at least call out that Rush does have that leverage advantage there.
All right, I'm building along with this. So we got Jefferson here. Let's see. Let's go to you, Nick. You can pick whatever you want. We are looking pretty solid, pretty much can go any direction. We have 12,000 remaining per player. Now that we don't have to worry about Prescott, there's a couple discount dandies that we can go to across the sites. I mean, Cooper Rush at this point, we're getting a quarterback at 10,000. That would be something. He's just 1,000 less than Adam Thielen. He's 1,500 more than Pollard. You've got KJ Osborne in the mix there. He's going to be good for probably 3 to 5 targets. Same thing there with Tyler Conklin. Those guys are relatively cheap. They both have touchdown equity in different ways. Conklin, of course, will have to be duking it out with Adam Thielen and Dalvin Cook, though he does have some red zone targets. And then on the other side, while KJ Osborne is definitely the third receiver in the pecking order, he has 3 different games where he's put up at least 75 yards or close to it as the threshold and scored in 2 of those games. He can kind of score from anywhere on the field if he ever gets the ball. So we've got some outs here. The only one I don't like is Alexander Mattison. The only time we're really going to see him in play is if there's mop-up duty. It seems that if Dalvin Cook plays, Madison really only gets 6 to 8 opportunities. It's been pretty low. So with those there, so people can kind of see where we might be going. What do you like here, Nick? You want to go in with the high level person? You got one of the low discount dandies that makes you feel happy. What do you got for us?
I really am interested in KJ Osborne. I know you kind of brought him up and basically went into exactly what I was going to say. He has had a couple of games on the season. I believe it is 1, 2, 3, 4 games over 6 targets on the season. He is a guy that is very involved in the offense. I don't think we're going to see Adam Thielen really have a down game, which could obviously up KJ Bourne's potential to play really well. But I do think KJ Osborne, I should say, could have a really good game this week. And I think that if we already have Justin Jefferson in the lineup, why not add another Minnesota player that I think could find his way into the end zone in this game. He scored last week. He had 6 receptions on 7 targets, as well as a touchdown and 78 yards up against the Carolina Panthers in that game. And I do believe that without Dak Prescott, I think the Dallas Cowboys are going to struggle a little bit. And I think the Vikings offense is going to really put the pedal to the metal. And I think KJ Osborne is going to have a big game this week.
All right. My wife just got home, so before my dog freaks out in here, I'm going to freak out in the other part of the house.
Your dog doesn't like KJ Osborne, I guess.
Or she likes him a lot. We'll have to see. So I like the route that we're going there. I am leaning towards Dalvin Cook in this one. Now, the interesting thing where I'm landing on Kirk Cousins, sort of my theory behind playing him would be that if the touchdowns don't congregate 2 onto any one of his pass catchers, there's a decent chance, just the way they spread things out, he should be able to surpass his pass catchers. So that's something I've sort of been thinking about. And I know that's not what we always like, because we're trying to find those 2 touchdown upside players. However, as we have seen in some of these wonky games where we said, hey, we're going to make the lineup without Brady, or hey, we're doing this lineup, we have to have 2 San Francisco players. That strategy kind of pays off, because otherwise we're going to wander our way into some sort of semi-chalky build. So even though we have both pass catchers here, I'm okay with going on Dalvin Cook for this one. I also think this is the kind of night, we're turning it over to Terry, so we'll find out. It's the kind of night you don't necessarily have to play a quarterback. considering there's really only 1 1/4.
I see what you did there.
Uh-huh.
So I do think we still want a quarterback, right? Going by, and it's DraftKings results, because that's what we've got. That's what we've been tracking in the article that I write in the historical sampling over the last couple of years. It is very infrequent that you see a winning lineup without at least one quarterback in at least a flex role. Typically, they are in the flex roles. So we're taking the multiplier, we're taking the salary changes out of it. So I tend to think that that trend would carry over to FanDuel, where at least in the flex roles, we're going to want to have one quarterback at least in most of these builds. Based on what the prices are, we could take both quarterbacks with our last 2 spots here and leave salary on the table. I think that's probably going to be a chalky build that other people would have, right? Jefferson in the MVP, Osborne, Cook, Cousins, Rush. But based on what we've got right now for an optimal line, for a leverage score for Rush, it's kind of interesting because it doesn't look like people are really going to him even in a flex role. It gives us both quarterbacks. It gives us our correlation with both receivers that we've already picked, and a little bit with Cook as well. He's not totally irrelevant in their passing game either. That said, I think since we made the Cook choice there, instead of going to one of the Dallas receivers, maybe, I don't know that I want to do that and book Cooper Rush without booking one of his receivers. So I think maybe I'm just going to take one of those Dallas receivers, and then we can do whatever we want with the last spot. So let me take a look at on the board here and see who's actually the most optimal out of those. It looks like we're getting Cooper was earlier. Yeah. I'm just going to go with Amari Cooper because that's the one out of these guys that I prefer, and I'm the one making the pick. So it's not a great leverage situation on any of them. He's slightly negative. He was positive earlier, but he's the slightly more positive leverage guy. That leaves us 14-5 on the table. So we cannot take Kirk Cousins now, which is another interesting reason to do that. So I'm just curious where we'll end up going with this last pick. But I think no matter what we do, it's going to be pretty unique and leave some money on the table.
All right. Do you have a lean on this, Nick? Because I'm gonna say that we're either taking CeeDee Lamb or Ezekiel Elliott. But if you have a play on that one, now here's another one where, because it's FanDuel, if Rush happens to somehow throw for 2 touchdowns, and one goes to Cooper and one goes to Lamb or Elliott, and we have those players, we're still going to be in a good spot. And that's something I'm okay with. If we look to go Elliott, I think that might be the more chalky build. I think people are going to say, you're going to play both Dallas wide receivers without their quarterback. What are you thinking? Well, I'm thinking I don't want to tie if this hits for me. That's what I'm thinking. What are your thoughts there? You can have the final decision between that pairing.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what you're saying. I do think that Zeke is probably the far more chalky play. He has been playing really good as of recently. This offense is a little bit different than the Minnesota Vikings because they do at least use Tony Pollard somewhat, where like we talked about earlier, when Dalvin Cook is healthy, they barely even use Alexander Mattison at all. So it is entirely possible that Tony Pollard ends up finding his way into the end zone in this game. So we're going to go ahead and go with CeeDee Lamb. I do think that's very interesting because I don't think a lot of people are going to have it. And CeeDee Lamb was feasting last week, or not last week, just the last game they played up against the Patriots. He had 9 receptions on 11 targets for 149 yards. He's a guy that I'm very interested in this week, and I think he should be fine without Cooper Rush. Like, Cooper Rush isn't that bad. At least I don't think so.
We don't know because we haven't seen him. We've
seen him play in preseason.
All right, we are
on. Look like he was that bad at Central Michigan. I'm just looking at some of his college stats. Since that's
yes. How do those translate in today's NFL? Because that was a long time ago. It was 5 years ago.
Yeah, and it's stats from the MAC. It's not like he was playing in the SEC.
All right, we are on here to Yahoo. Let's see. In the interest of fun, and because I'm shaking it up, I am going to say that somewhere on this lineup, not in the captain spot, but we have to have Dalton Schultz. I think we should start off with Dalvin Cook. This is a little more interesting build. Now, the reason I want to do that is because I want to show everybody, and I'm making 2 picks here, I won't make any more. I want to show everybody what it looks like depending on where we land if we leave money on the table. So on Thursday Night Football, you needed to play Randall Cobb, and basically you ended up leaving $6 or $7 on the table, or you could upgrade, as the money or the salary said, to the Arizona Cardinals defense against, that weakened team or whatever. And it turns out that was not the smart play. So Yahoo is a little bit different with the way their salaries work. So leaving that much on the table is not that big of a deal, because if those prices would have been flip-flop, we happily would have landed Randall Cobb in that slot over the defense. So this is more of a thought exercise on the contest here at Yahoo. So we're going to start off with Dalvin Cook and Dalton Schultz. We'll go to Nick for the third pick.
I really like that. I think every single time we've made a lineup on here on Yahoo, we've always left money. I don't think we've ever actually fully filled up the salary. So that's definitely fine with me. So here, based upon what we have right now, I think that I do want to at least get a quarterback in one of our lineups. So I want to go ahead and get Cooper Rush. And we're going to go ahead and assume that Cooper Rush, in this scenario, the picture that we are painting is that Cooper Rush throws a touchdown, at least one, to Dalton Schultz. So let's go ahead and play Cooper Rush. Again, we're not 100% certain how good Cooper Rush even is, but you never know. It is the Dallas Cowboys. So I do assume that he will be at least somewhat decent.
So here's some interesting...
Did we want to go with Schultz in the superstar spot and Cook in the flex, or the other way around?
Cook in the superstar.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
This one's a little more
Jordan,
chalky,
if you could swap those top two guys on the board there, that would be the way we're going.
All right. So the one thing I want to bring up on Schultz here is he's actually had 6 or more targets in all but one game over the last 4 games. He's actually outproduced Amari Cooper. And he's not that far off from CeeDee Lamb. They've been making a concerted effort to get him on the ball. They actually schemed for him to get it a couple times a game. That I don't think changes tonight with Cooper Rush. The one thing we know is inexperienced quarterbacks, rookies, players that just don't have a lot of action or reps under their belt. A lot of times the coaches, if they're smart, try to get him to go to the tight end, get him to go to the wide receiver, get him to go on a hot route. So this is something that's already built into the Cowboys lineup. I think it's something that can continue. So that's where was the main reason I wanted to go with Dalton Schultz. So I'm glad you grabbed Cooper Rush here as well. Terry, what do you got for the last two here?
Yeah, and I think what you were just saying, just to piggyback off of that, makes a ton of sense. You get Schultz a 6 average depth of target, the least deep of all the targets on the offense here, and it makes sense that he's going to be acting as that safety valve. What I like is he's the second highest receiver on the Cowboys in terms of yards per target at 9.7 yards per target. So he's turning in the yards even though he's not running deep routes. He's turned in a few touchdowns for us. So I do like that call. I like and I like getting the correlation with their quarterback there. So now it looks like we've got to build, since we've got Dalton Schultz, we've got Cooper Rush, we do have to build a little bit of talent into this lineup. So let's see what we've got on the board here.
All right. Well, Terry's looking for that. Do hit that like button. Let's get us up to, we're at 80. We've got almost 800 people watching. Let's get up to 125 here. Just one nice little quick push up there because they do check these things out and they rank us. And we don't get to go with the 4-hour block of shows. So let's show them what the deeper dive, or pardon me, what the live before lock can do against the deeper dive.
Yeah, so let's learn what
David and
the show is before we go for the like. So what I like, by the way, is we now have the top single game plays tool up and running for Yahoo. What we don't have on there is the optimal rates, but we are giving the top scoring percentage, the salary weighted top scoring percentage, the top 2 to top 5 percentage here. So there's a lot of data to work with now for Yahoo as we build these things. Just looking at the 2 to 5 scorers, that's going to be your top probabilities of being a flex scorer. Obviously, the 2 quarterbacks are at the top of the board. Cook is up there. We've got Cook already up in the superstar spot, and then we get to Justin Jefferson and we get to Zeke. I think maybe it's a little bit interesting to take a look at Zeke in this spot and kind of go the opposite direction that I think a lot of people are just going to naturally be building, which is to favor the Minnesota side of this. We're taking a guy who kind of fits into what we're building in terms of a theme here: weak quarterback, tight end for the short passes, a running back who not necessarily a big part of the passing game, but certainly capable of catching a ball out of the backfield here and there. And if they're keeping the ball on the ground in a conservative type of an offense, hopefully they keep the game tight. I think Zeke stays relevant here. That leaves us $24 to spend on our last spot, which puts us into an interesting salary range on some of these other choices now. So I'm curious to see where we would go with that. But I think it's a viable choice here that not a lot of people would necessarily make in that spot.
All right. So looking at this, I think our 2 choices would be KJ Osborne, who we already have, or we can go with Amari Cooper. I'm never really a fan of Amari Cooper, but I'm sort of, we're doing a reverse onslaught this way. Are there enough touchdowns? I mean, how does this one work out? A 17 14 game, a 21-14 game where the Minnesota touchdowns are spread out. Cook gets one of them or all of them, and that helps us. And then nobody else gets them. Is that a viable path here, Nick? Do you have a lean? Because it feels like Amari Cooper's the way to go, but now I'm having FOMO about leaving too much money on the table. That was the whole point of this exercise.
No such thing.
Yeah, we're all good here. We're going to go with Amari Cooper, I think. I think you can paint the picture of this somehow being an onslaught by the Dallas Cowboys, that maybe the Dallas Cowboys defense plays really well in this game as well, and that's able to give the offense a lot more opportunities, that even if Cooper Rush was to not play as well, that maybe he's able to turn things around based on just having the ball for longer. So I think I'm fine going with Amari Cooper. He's not a guy that I'm a huge fan of overall as a player. He is pretty solid, but it seems like this season he hasn't been as on as normal, but I still do think that he's definitely a fine play this week. He hasn't been as good as I wanted this season, but at the end of the day, in this game up against the Vikings, who don't have the greatest of defenses, you could easily see a solid Amari Cooper game.
Yeah. All right. We are
Yeah, I just like taking these things in weird directions when we're talking about them, and we've got some time to play with before this game gets started. So we were looking at the board. You mentioned KJ Osborne was only $15 in that spot. We had a little bit of money to spend. We went with Amari Cooper for $23. The guy that I clicked on as I was building this, and I actually entered the lineup, was Ty Conklin for $14. I figured KJ Osborne would be kind of the one that everybody goes to there if they're not going to Cooper. Ty Conklin, I think, gets enough volume, averaging 5 targets a game, decent receiver in the tight end role, as averaging 8 yards per target, only 1 touchdown on the season. But I think if that touchdown goes in a different direction, when we've got, to answer your question before, my thinking of that build was that's the looking for the 3 touchdown Cook game. Nobody else from the Vikings receiving court gets in the end zone. And then we get those Cowboys in that core of scoring. So I was thinking which would be the oddball if none of the Vikings wide receivers got in the end zone. That led me to the Ty Conklin pick there. It's leaving a ton of money on the table. It's not a common choice. So just to take that lineup decision in a different direction, I wanted to highlight that.
No, that's definitely worthwhile. And so my notes on Conklin say he had 42 targets through his first 28 games in the first 3 seasons of his career. He's been known mostly as a blocker. Of course, Kyle Rudolph is now with your Giants, Terry, and Irv Smith.
I'll package him with Jason Garrett to either team, whichever one wants them.
So 30 targets, 22 catches, 240 yards, and a touchdown for, as you mentioned, 4 to 5 projected targets each game. Someone is saying they thought Conklin was out. No, as far as I know,
not as far as I know.
It is Dede Westbrook who is out along with Dak Prescott.
Yeah, I don't think Conklin's out. I haven't seen anything about that, at least.
Yeah, I haven't seen any report about that.
All righty. So if we're wrong on that, let us know. We'll find that out. We're going to move on over here to DraftKings. Then we'll have some fun. We'll talk some other stuff here. Get us up to those 125 likes here. I'm going to drop in 10 DK $1 head-to-heads there on the DraftKings streets for the showdown. Username is EMAC. Come on and have some fun. Take my money, team free money in effect tonight. Hopefully Melissa is watching. I've been slowly clawing my way back from a massive deficit in our head-to-head games, Terry. I want you to know that.
I believe you. It's one of those things where you're my friend, so I believe you that you're telling me this, but I don't know, based on history, I don't know if that's necessarily true. So
I think she might be paying attention. One of the games she was at, and then she was out with friends, so she may not be paying attention.
Oh, so you're beating drunk Melissa when she's just hand building and not really paying attention.
But I think she's building her lineup and then not looking at it again, except to taunt me. But she has been crushing on Prize Picks. So fortunately, I cannot play her head-to-head on Prize Picks because Prize Picks were going against Prize Picks. We'll talk about them shortly. They are the sponsors of the show. Key thing that you need to know about Prize Picks, if you put in your first deposit, make it $100. They'll match up to $100 if you use the promo code Awesemo. Put in 20, they'll give you 20. Put in 100, they'll give you 100. Put in 200, they're going to give you 100. But that money comes out first when you make your first bets or wagers or selections or whatever we're calling the use of our entry fees these days. All right, DK, what do you have here for us, Terry? You can start it off.
Ooh, I started off. All right, let me jump over to the board here while we're looking at that. We've gone in a few different directions on this, so I'm going to do the same thing that I did with FanDuel. I'm sorting by that optimal lineup rate. No surprise, Cook and Cousins up at the top of the board, followed by Jefferson. Looks somewhat similar. Where we're getting a little bit of leverage, obviously on Cooper Rush, not anybody really looking to go to him. We get leverage on Justin Jefferson again, but I'm going to steal from what we did with the Yahoo one. I'm just going to plug Dalvin Cook in there and maybe look for that multi-touchdown Dalvin Cook game and not really think that this trends toward the high-flying shootout that it might have been if Dak Prescott was.
Melissa just sent us a chat. She said, yes, drunk Melissa here, and EMAC is catching up. So there we go.
Nice.
Let's see. She's been distracted. We'll say. I mean, she's been so busy with Prize Picks, so that'll be the case.
I don't want to get anybody.
So I'm making sure I get in a good contest here that I won't overrun. There we go. Let's save it in that one so I know I won't overrun it. So we're going with Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, it would get a little chalky since I've been weird with some of my other picks.
And that is absolutely fair on this one. I wonder what a build would look like without any wide receiver, without any quarterbacks. That might be interesting. I'm going to head us down that path. I am going to go with Jefferson here. Nick.
Okay, well, something that does not have anything to do with this build that we definitely can't do with the path we went down is, what are you guys' thoughts on doing like a double tight end, like with the Cowboys, like Dalton Schultz and Blake Jarwin? Because Jarwin scored a touchdown in both of the last two games. Now, I understand that it's very risky, right? The odds that Blake Jarwin scores isn't very high, but would you guys think about potentially doing something like that?
For me,
no. With Rush as their quarterback tonight.
Yeah,
that's really the only reason, is because if you said 1.5 touchdowns, it's like under, I think, for Rush.
Yeah, you got to think. But yeah, with those guys both seeing at least a few targets here and there, and certainly Schultz getting more of them, but Jarwin is not totally disinvolved in the offense. If Dak was playing this game, I'd be more inclined to do that. And that is an oddball. I do like taking those kind of shots in showdown format where you're taking guys that play the same position that you might necessarily think you're going to cannibalize one another. Just anything that I can do to get different, as long as it jibes with getting toward an upside score and I can see the pathway to success for both of these. And if these guys succeed, what does it mean for the rest of the lineup? And you're following those steps, then I think it makes some sense to make plays like that for showdown, but not with these two guys in this spot.
Yeah, and these would be the two guys, and this is the team to do that strategy on, Nick. That I completely agree with, because at the beginning of the season, we didn't know if it was going to be Schultz that would take the lead or Jarwin, because he's had his moments. And I mean, they're both capable. It just seems like Schultz has the edge. But if they flipped for the back half of the season, none of us would be that shocked. We'd be disappointed if the flip occurred tonight, but it wouldn't be that far out of the realm of possibilities. And I'm not going to look ahead, but I can guarantee there are more Cowboys showdowns in addition to Thanksgiving that we'll be looking at. Perhaps Dak Prescott will be healthy in those games, and we will file that one away for that. All right, Terry, where are you going to land here? We've got Cook and Jefferson thus far.
I made the Cook pick. I think it's on Nick, no?
Oh, sorry, Nick.
Oh, yeah, that's me. Okay. Yeah, I only brought it up because it seems like every showdown slate is National Tight End Day. That's the only reason why I brought it up, because every single time these guys are scoring. So we can go ahead. We're going to go a different way here. Like we were talking about a little bit before, we're not going to go with Kirk Cousins. We're going to go with Tyler Conklin in this build if we're going to go without the quarterback. I do like Tyler Conklin a decent amount, and I'm pretty interested in him in this game. He's been a guy that I didn't think was going to be the tight end this season, a lot like Dalton Schultz. I was very big on Irv Smith this season. He obviously got hurt, so we didn't even get to see him at all. So I'll go with Tyler Conklin here. I'm pretty confident in how he's played thus far this season. I actually think he's pretty solid.
All right, Terry, we're going to go to you here because I make up the rules. So you got 71-66 to go. We have a variety of options here. We're still on track to not play the quarterbacks, but we really need a Dallas Cowboy player. That we do.
We certainly do. And we took a step that, with a 49.5 total on the board, it's pretty frequently the optimal play to put a receiver or at least a pass catcher. And we do have some active tight ends, so I wouldn't leave them out, but a pass catcher in the captain spot. But I took us in a different direction with that Cook pick. Debating whether or not it makes sense to take a quarterback still, just again, based on historical sampling, the strongest trend that we've seen in our small samples, and it is very strong, is that a quarterback is basically mandatory in DraftKings Showdown builds for victory. It comes up very infrequently that a lineup can win a tournament without a quarterback in it at all. I would be inclined, if I was taking one here, to go with a Cooper Rush route. We're saving on salary. It gets us to a Dallas Cowboy. It's a different pick than most people would make with 3 Vikings and 3 pass catching Vikings in their lineup here. But instead of doing that, let's take a look in a different direction. And I'm going to grab one of the tight ends that we're talking about here. I'm just going to go with Schultz. So we'll go double tight end, but we're not going to do it from the same team. So we'll go Conklin and Schultz. And I think that's a differentiator in and of itself. I think a lot of people would be more inclined to look toward the receivers rather than going double tight end from the opposing teams. So maybe that one gets us a little bit different anyway.
All right, Nick, I'm going to give you a choice here for my selection.
Wow.
Would you go with Ezekiel Elliott, balancing things out because we're looking at getting the most touches, and he is lining up for that on the Dallas Cowboys? Or would you want to go with Adam Thielen, even without Cousins at this point? It's full PPR on DraftKings, which is where that sort of comes into play. But we've got to figure, I think on Prize Picks, it was like 2.5 or 3. I checked before the Cooper Rush news came out. 2.5 or 3 was the number of receptions for Ezekiel Elliott. I think we'll get the over on that. I'm leaning towards Elliott, but I wanted to let you weigh in on this one.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. So with Adam Thielen, it seems like Adam Thielen's basically all of his value every single week so heavily rides on scoring a touchdown, because when he doesn't score a touchdown, he just gets like 40 yards and does absolutely nothing in that game. So there obviously could be the case in this game that if he doesn't end up scoring, then it goes that way. I'm fine going with Ezekiel Elliott. If I'm being honest with you, I like Zeke a bunch tonight. I think I already talked about him earlier when we made a pick. He's one of those guys that I could easily see getting over 120, 140 yards in this game, especially if Cooper Rush is struggling. I also think he could look to dump the ball off to Ezekiel Elliott, which is something that he is very solid at doing. He had 9 targets last week, which was his high on the season. So I don't expect him to get 9 targets again, but with Cooper Rush in there, you could definitely see that happening.
All right, Terry, I'm looking at, we have 5,700 left. We're looking at Pollard, KJ Osborne, or Wilson. I really don't want the kickers tonight. I'm leaning towards going with KJ Osborne again here. Yes, I know that we're going to have a lot of pass catchers here, but we're playing him for the touchdown. We're not playing him for anything else. So in this one, let's say our target is 10 fantasy points. Would you look for the 1 in 3 chance that Osborne gets there? Would you look in the 1 in 6 chance that Wilson gets there? Or would you look at it on the 50-50 mark that one of the kickers gets there? I think I still want Osborne.
Yeah, I think from that perspective, it definitely makes sense. We've got him projected for just under that 10-point mark on DK. So I think it makes sense. It leaves us a little bit of money on the table. It's definitely an oddball build with so many Vikings receivers in there and not their quarterback. So yeah, I like it. I think it's the logical pick here. It's probably unique enough in and of itself that we don't really have to sweat it. Maybe 2 or 3 people would have it, but it's not going to be one of those lineups where, you win and 500 people have it and you win $8 instead of $300,000. So yeah, we can go that route. I don't love either kicker here. I think they're going to be relevant in the game, but just again, going back to some of the historical sampling, they're the least premium pick that we can make in most situations. So I don't love going to that spot. I wouldn't have been totally against it if we'd been a little bit tighter for salary, but given a little bit of money to spend, I'm good with that pick. That is a spot though. If I'm building this lineup, I might make a change on probably one of the tight ends. Maybe I'd go all the way up and swap Justin Jefferson out for a different high-end receiver. Like if I take Justin Jefferson out and go to CD, that doesn't buy me enough there. There's a swap in here somewhere that I would make with that, given that we had 57, to buy myself the extra 300 and get Cooper Rush in that lineup though, if I'm building that lineup for myself.
Okay. I think that makes a lot of sense on that one. Some highlights on the kicker. We're going to look a little, do a little Awesemo Oddsshopper here. So if producer Jordan wants to get us up on the screen there, I do want to mention some kicker analysis real quick in the interim. The fun thing about the kickers here, so we have Greg Zuerlein. He's only 4 for 12 from 50 plus since the beginning of last year. Greg the Leg, not quite as accurate as he once was. This is year 10 for him. Greg Joseph on the other side, he was out of the league last year. He's played just 22 games in his career. He is 30 for 37 on all field goals. And this season, he's 5 of 6 from 50. I don't know. That feels a little more comforting. Greg the Leg, I mean, we've got the nickname there, but it might be the other Greg that is the player we want to look at here, Terry. So Interesting stuff there. All right.
Sure.
So for those of you that are playing along at home here, which hopefully is a lot of you, is wagering. Oops. And we'll get. Don't worry, Dinas. We'll get to your super chats there. My apologies. I'll get those up in just a sec. So if we go,
It'd be weird if they're not playing along and they're watching, right? I mean, what are they? You know, we love you guys hanging out, even if you're not playing along. But what are you doing here?
Well, they could be in a state that they don't have wagering, but this is ties in
okay.
with
You're
Prize
saying
Picks.
that way. I get
This ties in with Prize Picks as well. So you can go to Shop NFL over there at Oddsshopper.com. That's 2 S's, odds, and then shopper.com. So if we click on Shop NFL, you can see over on the far right, we can sort things. Let's go to expected ROI largest to smallest. So this is going to show us all sorts of player props for the upcoming Monday night and Sunday night games. So this is a nice way to easily come in and sort and just find what is available for you guys out there. So if we look at Tony Pollard, that's one of our better options here. Receiving yards above 10.9. That's one that we definitely would consider taking the over. You can see that wait, what is that right there? Oh, I'm sorry. It's the under is there. It's 18.5. I was looking at the 10.9. That's Awesemo coming straight out of his database model. Awesemo is projecting 10.9 receiving yards for Tony Pollard. We are saying that has an 83 expected win rate, 56% expected ROI. Well, why is the ROI lower than the win rate? Well, you have to pay the juice. In this case, we're going to pay 115 to win back 100 and our 115. So you're not getting dollar for dollar. But if you were to make this same wager at a very similar target number over there on Prize Picks, it is dollar for dollar. So that is the one nice thing about Prize Picks is you aren't paying this vigorish or the fee or the, whatever the different word you want to use, the rake, the facilitating cost here for the site. Prize Picks has built their model to be more, it's all in their odds, of course, but it's built to be more of a fantasy sports kind of function. And they have it built out where you can build your player card of 2, 3, 4, or 5 questions. You can do across sports. They offer over 36 sports. Today, they had 11 different sports in play, from crazy stuff such as highlight to esports to soccer, all the leagues. They give you a lot of player props on players that you're not going to find on some of the other sites. Like tonight, they've got a rushing prop for Kirk Cousins at 2.5 yards. Do you want the over or the under? Awesemo's projecting him for about 8 yards. I don't know, because the kneel downs could take us backwards. Kirk Cousins doesn't run a lot. But just 2.5 yards, that's kind of enticing. So we could poke around here. And if we go, we can actually search by player now. So if you wanted to search here for Kirk Cousins in our player list, it's got it alphabetical there on the side. You can just slide down to him and see if he has any props, if I spell his name correctly. So there's his rushing yard. Ooh, it's also 2.5 over there at DraftKings. So we have a 76% expected win rate there. We have a 41% ROI. That would be a 76% ROI on odds or on Prize Picks. Slightly less because you have to do at least 2 bets. So it'll be a little lower than that because you got to get both of them right. But you can start to see how the math works, where it's a little bit more in our favor. But there's your little tips and tricks there for Oddsshopper. We have this for all of the main sports. It's free. You can even set up an account on it and track your own wagers if you're in a site or in a state that does not allow sports wagering. But this is something you can utilize to look across the different things here. All right, before we do some Prize Picks recommendations here, let's start at the top, see if there's anything we did not cover. So Terry, anything you want to mention about, and then I'll let Nick, anything you guys want to mention about Cooper Rush? How is he in 2-hand touch games? Does he play in the Family Turkey Bowl? What's going on here? What do we have? Because we got to dig deep to find any value or any footage. It's like the Zapruder films.
Well, I think
Nick's not going to get that one. Terry will, though.
I had you there, buddy.
I don't get it. Yeah, I don't got it.
Yeah. I don't get it from history. I just know because I've seen the movie JFK.
Let's
see if I can get away with that one.
Well, Oliver Stone, Any Given Sunday, we tie it right back to football. That's what we do here.
That's a good movie. I don't remember what the question was. I think it was about Cooper Rush. I was going to make fun of you for referring to the VIG as a processing and distribution fee. I think that's what all the guys here, all the bookies here in Jersey call it. Yeah, we processing and distribution fee. Huh? So Cooper Rush, 4-year player at Central Michigan in the MAC. Looks like a 4-year starter. 60 some odd, 2 years in the 60s in completion percentage. It doesn't look like a very good quarterback to me. That's about all I've got. Nick, you got anything more substantial on Cooper Rush?
Yeah, so I looked up. Someone in the chat asked, does Cooper Rush the ball? And the answer is no. Based upon his preseason stats, this guy does not run, even if his last name is Rush. Unlike the kicker whose last name is Blewett and continues to keep missing kicks in the NFL, this Rush guy does not rush the ball. So don't expect him to go out there and look like Kyler Murray or something. So that's what I got on Cooper Rush. Not going to run the ball.
There you go. Right, and that holds up through college too. I can confirm that in his senior year, 2016, 68 rushing attempts for negative 21 yards. So presumably those are all just sacks.
Yeah, those. It's one thing to remember in college football. Sacks do count as attempts as well as against their rushing yardage total. That's important to remember. How are you feeling about the running backs? Where's Tony Pollard standing on your list? Confident? Figure he gets maybe a third of the work here in something that Dallas might try to run at least for the first few series. Keep this game close.
Yeah, I think that makes some sense. And then just taking a look at our board. The one thing that I don't love about Pollard, unless something changed, he was a negatively leveraged play in the flex role. I don't love him in the captain spot. He's very, very infrequently optimal. You can take some shots there, right? He's not going to be owned very much. He's under 1% ownership, under 1% optimal. So if you want to take 5% of your lineups and throw some darts with Pollard, I don't really have an issue with it. I wish he was a little bit less owned in the flex role, but that said, it's still fairly low overall, just aggregate ownership. It's only around 15%. So if you wanted to get over that, he's only coming up like 13.6% optimal. I don't really think it's a problem to push beyond the 15% ownership, get him up to the 20% range, just grab a few extra shares of them just in case something wacky happens with those. I think about a third of the touches go his direction. Maybe a few extra dump off passes to him as well. You never know, but it's not a standout play for me based on the leverage.
All right, Nick, pass catchers, and then we'll look at the Vikings.
All right, I'll go to the pass catchers real quick. I wanted to agree with Terry, though, because Tony Pollard only gets about 10, 11 rushes every single game. He's not a guy that is super involved. He is much more involved than a lot of running backs who have like such a talented running back ahead of them like Ezekiel Elliott. But at the end of the day, he's not a guy that I would be heavily hammering into. CeeDee Lamb is my favorite pass catcher for the Dallas Cowboys. He's a guy that could easily see over 120 yards in this game. He has 3 touchdowns in the last 2 games. Last week up against the Patriots, he had that amazing game. Well, it wasn't technically last week because they had their bye, but you guys get what I'm saying. 9 receptions on 11 targets for 149 yards and 2 touchdowns in that game. He's a guy that I really like a lot. And then with Amari Cooper, I'm not as confident in him. It appears that he's been kind of banged up all season. We've seen him on the injury report a decent amount. This week, was he on the injury report? I do not believe so, but I do believe that injury on his leg has been impacting him. So I'm not completely excited about him. And then I will be playing a lineup with the double tight ends, even though it's not National Tight End Day like last week.
All right. Well, this is the catch up for all these guys were all on bye last week, Nick. I see what you're doing here.
Yeah, I mentally messed up there. I apologize.
So these guys now get their chance.
Yeah, their National Tight End Day carries over. That's what you're saying.
Oh, that's next level right there. Yeah, that's genius.
Exactly.
I like it.
Exactly. Terry, what are we thinking here on Kirk Cousins? Now, the Cowboys defense is actually decent from an efficiency standpoint. While they are allowing 295 passing yards per game, which is 4th or 5th in the NFL, their DVOA is 10th or 11th thus far on the season. They've kind of been flirting around there in the top 10 from an efficiency standpoint. It's just that their offense has been forcing a lot of the other teams to throw more than they may typically want to here. How are you feeling about this? Do you think, Minnesota, they've got Dalvin Cook. They're going to look to run, do a little surgical passing down the field. It doesn't feel like this is a game where they're going to put Kirk Cousins wide open, but he does have all of the best pass catching options, or he has excellent pass catching options at all of the positions.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's having a nice year for himself. 13 touchdowns on the season puts him, let's call it like 8th or 9th in the league here. 69.5% completion percentage on the season.
Nice. Very nice.
There you go. 7.4 yards per passing attempt. So yeah, I like it. I don't know that, I don't know that they're going to have to go full throttle here to beat this team in their current configuration with no Dak Prescott. So maybe they let up a little bit. Maybe they feed the ball to the running backs a little bit more. But I think, obviously, if we're taking a quarterback, a gun to our heads, this is the quarterback that we want in this spot. And there's definitely upside to him throwing multiple touchdowns to, I think, any one of these receivers, really. Nick mentioned earlier when we were talking about Thielen that he tends to be more the target in the red zone that you need to get to get the touchdown out of, where Jefferson can see a little bit more targets, maybe see a little bit more depth and give you that big play upside. And I wouldn't take Osborne off the board either. So yeah, based on the fact that he's got, and we talked Conklin as well at the tight end spot. So based on the fact that he's got 4 extremely viable targets, plus his running backs who are involved in the passing game, and they go to the air at least a decent amount. Yeah, I like the spot for Kirk Cousins here, but I do think we can justify maybe peeling back from where we would have been in the idea of this game being a shootout between Cousins and Dak.
All right, Nick, hit us up on the skill position players, and we're going to talk about D-Niz's super chats, and then we're going to get into some prize picks wagers, take some questions, wrap us up. We got 19 minutes left on the show. Reminder, please do hit that like button and subscribe if you have not already. We do have 3 YouTube channels out there. We have the Awesemo Fantasy Football channel. We have the Awesemo Odds channel. And, of course, we have this main channel. Cresting over 64,000 subscribers here. Thank you very much. Of course, Lofty wants me to tell you we're on our way to 70,000. So let's not stop there, but do hit that like button. And just because I like you guys, Team Free Money is dropping another $1 contest in the DraftKings head-to-head streets. Nick, take us through the Minnesota skill position players, please.
Yeah, so when it comes to Adam Thielen, like we were talking about a little earlier, I won't really go super in depth into it because Terry kind of did just bring it up. He is really just based upon the touchdown. If he does not end up scoring tonight, I think that Adam Thielen will be a big disappointment. KJ Osborne is one of my favorite players on the Minnesota Vikings. He started off the season basically on fire, and then he cooled off for a couple of games. Then he came back last week, technically not last week, the week before, getting my mind all messed up with the bye weeks. But up against the Panthers, he had a much better game. He had 7 targets in that game, 78 yards and a touchdown in that matchup. So KJ Osborne is a guy that I'm very interested in. I wonder how many people are going to be playing Chris Herndon tonight as a complete and utter punt, because I do feel as though he does have not a lot of value, but just a little bit of value to where I'd be kind of interested if we're going for, it is National Tight End Day for these guys like we've brought up. So you never really know.
So that would be a bit of a curveball given the 3 targets
Huge
on the season, but definitely some missed games in there for Herndon. And he was a guy that coming into the season, if it wasn't going to be Conklin, you mentioned Irv earlier, I was actually thinking that Herndon kind of made sense. Saw him a couple years here with the Jets. It kind of made sense that he was going to get some volume. It has not been there, but sure. Is he a guy capable of catching a touchdown in this game? Absolutely. Is he going to see 10 targets and rack up 100 yards in a Travis Kelce kind of a tight end game? No, probably not. But you're only really playing for that touchdown, so that makes sense.
Yeah, he even scored a nice touchdown last week for us, so maybe it'll happen again.
There you go. I like it.
All right, so I'm going to read this to you guys. I also just made a little quick Slack channel for the 3 of us plus Jordan. So this is from D-Niz. He's got 2 super chats sitting out there. Thank you so much, D-Niz. We appreciate those. So it's a 1 and a 2-parter, but we're gonna take them together here. So his first question was high dollar cash, high dollar single entry, which is what he usually plays. The best captain option. And how do you feel about kickers in the flex versus Madison? Now, we kind of hit a little bit on that Madison really doesn't do a whole lot outside of Dalvin Cook being injured, but there's a chance he could get some fourth quarter mop-up duty here. And that's something that you're kind of playing for from that standpoint. So he's sort of advanced beyond. He's still curious about the best captain, but he's now considering a Zeke and Madison or Joseph, the kicker, and Cooper, I'm assuming Cooper Kupp.
Amari that would
Cooper.
be a play. If you can play Cooper Kupp in this game, I encourage you to do it.
If you could, I'd play him every single time. That guy's amazing.
Absolutely. Captain Cooper Kupp when nobody else is, I'll take it.
That's the contrarian play of Halloween. Trick or treat. That was a trick on myself. So Zeke and Madison or kicker and Amari Cooper. And who do you like for high dollar? So he's basically building out his cash. And I think he usually plays the single entry like 270 or something like that on DK.
So on the kicker point, real quick, I just jumped back into my little Showdowns dashboard here so I could give them a little bit of history on it. It's over the last 2+ seasons, I'm going a point in either direction of the game total. We have 17 total lineups, 17 total winning lineups that fit into that sample. Out of those, we have out of 17, 8 of them. So fully half of them, or just under half of them, I guess I should say, included a kicker in a flex spot. None of those included a kicker in the captain spot. Do not do that. But certainly one kicker seems a little bit viable here. Every single one of those lineups, by the way, included at least one quarterback. 3 of the kicker lineups there included 2 quarterbacks. So quarterbacks, again, very, very important here. Oh, actually, no, excuse me. One of the full sample was not did not include a quarterback. That was a game where the defense captain won. It was the Chiefs defense in a game where Mahomes came out early and the game went 12.5 points under the game total, which is also kind of important towards some of the kicker trends. It looks like some of those came into games that were under the point total. So if that's kind of your narrative for tonight, then you might want to look toward that.
All right. Nick, any thoughts you want to add on that one?
Yeah, I think we need to change the nickname of Greg Zuerlein and give that to Greg Joseph, because Greg Joseph is by far and away the better kicker. This guy is on fire. I love Greg Joseph tonight. I'm going to be playing a lot of him.
All right.
There we go.
Okay, let's head on over there to Prize Picks, and then Terry's going to steer the ship for the last few minutes to, I put my final lineups in here. I've got all my groups set, but I want to do one culling of my upload here. So looking at the run sheet that I shared with you guys, I put out the key plays that we have. They might have tweaked just a little bit since I put these out, since obviously Dak Prescott is not playing.
I would look at that, but you broke my Slack. I don't know what my Slack is entirely frozen after you dropped that image.
I'm sorry. Well,
all right. We're going to go with the seat of our pants. Don't worry about it. We'll figure it out.
Cooper Rush is at 232 passing yards. That one I would feel like I would take the under. Kirk Cousins is kind of interesting. He is at 280.5. Awesemo has him at 281.5. I'm not doing cartwheels for either of those. Nick, do you have a lean on the quarterbacks?
Yeah, I do kind of like Kirk Cousins is under, if I'm being honest with you. I think that Dalvin Cook is going to be seeing a lot of usage. We've kind of painted that picture a lot throughout this live stream. So I would go with the under, but again, I'm not 100% saying that that's like a lock or something, since the projections are so close with what the website has it at.
Yeah, and out of what we've got on the prop betting tool on the site, that is the leading quarterback bet is the under in terms of expected win rate. It's only a 57% win rate, so that is a pretty tight line. Alex has him at 283.94, and the line is at 282.5 on the site. What we're going by there. So you're getting 2 yards back on the Prize Picks board there, which, given that it's that close, that's going to bring it a lot even closer to get to the under there. So it's a tight call, but I think you're on the right side of it if we have to pick that one.
All right. Looking at the rushing props, we're pretty close on all of those. We have Ezekiel Elliott at 72.5. Awesemo has him at 69. So I'm thinking the under might be the way to go there, although I would rather utilize Elliott for the over in receptions. You can only use a player once per card. If you want to use them a second time, you need to put a second card out there. But the Ezekiel Elliott over 2.5 receptions, we have him at 3.1. I like that tonight. I still like it with Cooper Kupp. Pardon me. God, I'm going to do that a lot. With Cooper Rush under center there. The only other rushing one is Kirk Cousins there. As we mentioned before, we have him at Prize Picks has him at 2.5. Awesemo has him at 8.1. Looking at the receiving here, we have, let's see the update. Justin Jefferson still at 80.5. Awesemo has him at 87. I like the over there. Looking at my sheet, Nick, is there anything else that pops for any of those receiving yards? Throw a couple of those at Terry. Poor favor.
Yeah. Mr. Dalton Schultz, since we've talked about him a decent amount, Prize Picks has him at 45.5. His projection from Awesemo is 47.9. Terry, you liking the over? You liking the under?
So that one is pretty different on the board that I was looking at here for Schultz. It was a 37.5, and Alex had it going over just with a 52% win rate. So if we're getting what was the total, the line?
45.5 according to the run sheet.
Yeah, so I'm starting to think that if we're going with a higher total on the Prize Picks board there, that's going to trend that win rate to an under. So I think I'm going to take the underside of that one. What's that, Jordan?
37.5. Okay. I'll pull up.
Okay. So 37.5 is what we have on the Awesemo board. So that puts us like right on that coin flip spot. That's a 52%er. It's a tough ask. I like when I'm going with prize picks, I like to just kind of look towards some of these higher expected win rate bets. So that's a tough ask there. It would have been a lot stronger for the under, I think, if it had stayed at that higher mark.
Yeah, I agree. What are you thinking about Mr. Justin Jefferson? The sheet has him at 80.5. We have him at 86.8 from when EMAC made this.
Yep. So it looks like where we've got him on the board right now for the site was at an 85.5, and Alex was seeing a fairly decent number on the under. He was seeing a 56% win rate on the under, so a little bit more aggressive of a win rate than the Schultz pick. Still, a lot of these yardage ones in terms of receiving yards are pretty tight. Right, we've got a lot of mid 50s here. We get to 60% win rate on Dalvin Cook with a 23.5. I'm not sure what he's got on the prize picks board. The leader on our board here is Tony Pollard with a 13.5 line, 72% expected win rate on that one. So what's our Pollard? 36.5 on the prize picks board? No, that's not right, is it?
Tony Pollard, yeah, 36.
That's rush. No, sorry, that was rush yards. So Pollard on receiving yards here is where I wanted to be. And it looks like I'm not looking at the right thing on there. Oh, no, maybe he's just not on the board here. So we'll move on from that one. But I do like that bet.
All right. Let's move to the receptions. Oh, no, actually, I think we already talked about the receptions. So pass completions. Do you think Kirk Cousins can complete over 24 completions? I honestly think so.
Yeah, it sounds reasonable. I mean, we've talked about the probable desire to trend toward the ground a little bit more, but the guy's throwing the ball a decent amount. 239 pass attempts over 6 games, so I think that gets us there. So yeah, I'll take that one. I don't have a win rate on that one, but I don't think anyway. Do we have
now, Nick? There's a couple on there. 3 point or 3 even for Conklin and Osborne. Awesemo has them at slightly over. We've talked about those guys a few different times. Would you be willing to put down on your card over 3 receptions for either of those guys?
Or Dalton Schultz, I think I would. Pretty confidently. Okay. When it comes to Tyler Conklin, it's a little bit more up in the targets do go up and down. As high as 8 targets a couple, and as low as targets up against the Lions. So he's not a guy that is just locked and loaded in there to get 4 or 5 targets every single game, but I could definitely see that hitting. But I'd rather go with Schultz.
All right. And then the piece de resistance is 8 minutes left. Dalvin Cook over under half a rushing touchdown. Awesemo has him projected 67% of the time. That's a gimme. That's what we call a bunny here. Would you put him on that touchdown? It has to be rushing touchdown, though. Would you put that on the majority of your cards, Terry?
Yeah, I think that one makes a ton of sense. Like I said, I'm looking for those picks that I can make that have that high win rate. When we get to prize picks, I'm not really concerned with the ROI of these bets. I'm just looking for that high win rate. So yeah, that's one I would definitely be interested in booking. We talked about the probability of some increased volume. We certainly know he's got the talent to get in the end zone a few times. So I like that one.
All right. So that hits most of our prize picks. I think we lost Nick here. He's been a little shaky on the interwebs there. That would be the trick of the trick or treat. What are you thinking there for Cooper Rush with regards to fantasy points, Terry?
With regards to fantasy points,
I think, damn it. No, I'm the one that's frozen on my stuff.
I can still hear you, Emac. I'm not losing you or anything.
Okay, we're good. I'll take that swear back. 14 fantasy points. I thought he was at 13.5. 14 fantasy points for this. 4 points for touchdowns. The normal 0.25 for passing yards on prize picks.
I'm going to take the under. I'm generally pessimistic on guys like this making these spot starts when they have no experience, when they've been in the league for a little while and not made a dent, not gotten their name out there at all. So just kind of, maybe taking a casual approach to that thought without a lot of numbers to put behind it. I'm just going to take the pessimistic approach and think the under on that one and just think this is a Vikings wipeout.
All right. Do you want to see any questions there in chat? I'm going to upload my file and we're going to be good to go.
Yeah, we'll take a look around. We've got some questions coming in through the YouTube chat. So Anthony is asking, it looks like a 2v2, and I've got, I think Nick is back there. So I'll throw this one over to Nick. He's saying Osborne and Cooper or Thielen and Zerline.
Ooh, I would probably go with Osborne. in that one. It was Osborne and who?
It was Osborne and Cooper or Thielen and Zerline.
Yeah, I'd go with Osborne and Thielen.
Yeah, Osborne and Cooper, but yeah, it's
Osborne and Cooper. Oh my gosh, my brain.
Worries,
yeah, Osborne.
Yeah, you're taking a lot more upside there by going with the multiple.
Quick, grab a handful of candy. You need the sugar high.
No, I need my internet. Might need that. I don't know why I turned off before.
Zach Arakelian, I'm going to field this one despite the fact that he's been yelling it at us all in caps because I'm confident that he hit the thumbs up. And if he hasn't, I'm confident he's going to help us get over 200 thumbs up right now by going down there and hitting that thumbs up for us. So he wants to know whether you're playing Osborne or Greg Joseph in all caps. And Nick, I want you to yell your answer back at him.
We're going Osborne. Osborne.
There you go. All right. That's a little.
All right, there we go. Well, I didn't want to scream. Didn't want to peak the mic. Didn't want to ruin everything tonight. Everything goes down.
All right. For those of you still hanging in there, hit that thumbs up. 800 people watching. We've got 3.5 minutes until lock. By the time you hear this, it's going to be 3. Terry, any more questions here?
Yeah, I'm looking around in the YouTube chat here. Jefferson or Kirk Cousins in flex. To me, that's one where I want to take the quarterback if you don't already have a quarterback, just based on, I've said it a few times through the show, and it holds up. We've got a pretty strong historical trend that you want a quarterback in a flex spot on the DK slate. So if you don't already have a quarterback in there, I would go that route. Taking a look around. Nick, Malcolm Revamp in YouTube asks, just in a vacuum, who's your favorite play at the captain spot on DraftKings?
Who's my favorite play? It's probably Cooper Rush. Probably Cooper Rush because of the fact that he's cheap and because of the fact that he's a big unknown player, right? We don't know too much about Cooper Rush besides the fact that he played in the MAC and that he doesn't like to run, even though his last name is Rush. So that's what's very interesting. Besides him, it's probably Dalvin Cook, if I'm being honest with you. I love Dalvin Cook tonight, especially if this game does turn out to be not that shootout, which I assume it won't be because Dak Prescott is out. And that will mean that the Minnesota Vikings will be rushing the ball a decent amount, and that will lean towards Dalvin Cook.
I think that makes sense, and I like the Cooper Rush call there. It's definitely ballsy, right? We're putting him on the line a little bit with that one, but we're taking a guy who is coming up optimal in Awesemo simulations, the 4th most frequently out of all the players in this game, and nobody's going to him. Under 5% ownership, you're getting the highest leverage score on the board in the captain spot by going that route. And to your point, you're saving a ton of money by doing it. So yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I think it's a strong DK play there. So if you're not putting him in your flex rolls and building with a skill player captain, I definitely think it makes some sense to go that route. Rush and Pollard or Zeke and Jarwin for DK single entry.
Rush and Pollard or Zeke and Jarwin. I'd probably just go Rush and Pollard, to be honest with you, and just hope that maybe the Dallas Cowboys are actually in this game and potentially maybe beat the Vikings. Then we see a decent amount of Pollard later on in the game. He's not a guy that's going to see 15, 20 rushes in this game, but with the dump offs that we have talked about, maybe Cooper Rush, he gets a little bit nervous, dumps the ball his way a couple of times, and that helps him acquire even more fantasy points. So that's the way I would lean. Do you agree, or would you have went the other way?
Yep.
Yeah, no, I do agree with that. I think you get a little upset. Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm on board with that as well, as we're kind of wrapping up here since people are getting in towards the lock. I do want to remind everybody, I still got about 700 people here. Come on, get some 250 thumbs up. We'd like that. Guess what they have on Prize Picks? Second half cards. That's right. You can put together second half questions for the game tonight, as well as looping it in with Monday Night Football. The fun never stops over on Prize Picks. The fun really gets started when you make your first deposit. If you utilize the promo code Awesemo, they will match you up to $100 with your first deposit. That money comes out first into the contest you enter. It is not a drip bonus. It is definitely the way to go. Who terrifies you on Halloween here, Terry, as we lock?
Well, for me, it's I'm in an apartment building, so I barely realized that it was Halloween until I went outside for some coffee earlier and saw some people wandering around in costumes. I was out Friday night in the city at a Bad Religion concert and saw some people in costume in New York on Friday, so that was fun. But what terrifies me is what somebody's asking in the Discord chat, just asking if anybody's fading CeeDee Lamb tonight. So that's, to me, that's insanity to just take a guy like that and just blanket fade him and just say, hey, I'm building 150 lineups and none of them are going to include CeeDee Lamb. So let's save somebody's night with 30 seconds left on the board and do not fade CeeDee Lamb, blanket fade. You can go under the field on him, but don't take him out entirely.
I have 11% on DK in the field. I have 2% in captain.
I think that sounds about right.
Nick, who scares you the most tonight? Who do you not have enough of? Who do you have too much of as we just hit lock?
Oh, it's definitely Blake Jarwin because, like I'm saying, it's always these tight ends on Showdown slate, and I feel as though somehow, some way, someone's going to have the double tight end. And it's not going to be me, and it's going to make me quite sad when Blake Jarwin and Dalton Schultz find their way into the end zone.
All right, we are wrapping up, but we start again tomorrow morning. You get Josh Engelman at 6:30 with The Process Show. Be ready to give the cheers with your coffee as he starts that one up. It's always fun to catch that right here on the Awesemo YouTube channel. 9 o'clock, we're going to get the NFL Strategy Show. That's going to be with Dave Loughran, Matt Gajewski, and Alex Brown. We start at 9 or keep going at 10 o'clock with Josh and Adam with the NBA Strategy Show. We've got the NFL Recap Show with Eric Lindquist and Adam pulling double duty there after he forgot his show on Monday this week. And then we have another 7 hours of shows after that, plus 3 videos on demand. We've got you guys covered. We are wall-to-wall fantasy sports here at Awesemo. Definitely keep us in your thoughts by hitting that notification bell once you've subscribed, and you're going to know when we go live at any given time. Shout out to Jordan Klein, Jordan the producer, getting to do a Sunday night football show. I wonder how he drew the short straw. I thought the new guys had to do that. But with that, we're going to get on out of here. Follow Awesemo over there on Twitter at Awesemo_COM. With that, gamers, good luck.